All right. Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome back to our class, Convention Sales and Services. Hey, quick update, some housekeeping, if you will. Great job on the first exam. Your guys' test scores were phenomenal. A lot of high B's, a lot of A's. Very, very impressed. Like I said, you guys have really put a lot of attention to detail, it looks like, a lot of time in studying. Again, very, very impressed, guys. Congratulations. We have 2 discussions out there. My hope is to have those graded in the next 2 days. Get you guys updated on those. You have a one other assignment that's due this Thursday. I believe it's the first of our case studies. So you have that out there. So without further ado, we'll get you guys going here on chapter 7, 8, and 9. So our first one, chapter 7, selling to the meeting market. Now, this is one of my favorite chapters, only in the sense of we finally get into the actual, what I call the meats and potatoes of selling, right? What does it mean to sell? Now, in the olden days, if you will, back 20, 30 years ago, selling was all about winning you winning, getting over on the client and coming out ahead, if you will. That mindset has changed greatly over the years. And what we have come to now is more of what we call consultative sales, if you will. The idea is that it has to be a win-win, right? Our company has to come away successful. The client has to come away successful. Otherwise, we're not going to keep them. They're smart enough. They're going to realize, hey, I came out on the losing end of this. There's got to be a better partner out there to work with. And again, in the end, we are we are problem solvers, right? We're coming up with solutions. So the idea is the solution has to be successful for the client, has to be successful for us. So a lot of times I always say it's a win-win-win, right? We win as a sales manager, our company wins who we're representing, and our client wins. If it's not that, you should walk away. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do. I may have already told this story. There are many times when we had young sales managers who might be shadowing us, more senior sales managers, the fact that we would sit there and as we're talking with our client, realizing, look, what they're looking for is not what we offer, right? They want this, they want A, B, and C, and I'm offering them a D, E, and F, right? Now, we could probably convince them to take D, E, and F, and we would make money and the hotel would be happy. However, we've ruined that relationship with that client. And there could be another $200 million worth of meetings that we don't know about because we are now cutting ourselves off after this particular meeting and this particular piece of business. So it's short-sightedness. It's not playing the long game. So there are times that you're going to say, you know what, hold up. We're not a good fit. This isn't the way it should be, right? And I had to go both ways where a client comes to me and says, hey, I got $89 to spend and I want to be in your hotel in August. Sorry, my going rate in August is $149. And I can't lower that because I've got, 4 or 5 other clients who are clamoring to get into that time frame. This is not a good fit for us. Okay, so we're going to walk away. Same time, I've had clients come to me in times where I desperately needed them, but as they're beginning to describe what they want, I'm like, well, that's not us. You just described that you want, all suites, overlooking downtown, up on the 20th floor. Well, my hotel was 3 stories tall, and we didn't have all suites. I said, you need the JW, you need the Omni, you need somebody else downtown. Let me get you there so you have a good experience. Know that you can trust me, that I'm looking out for your best interest, and hence come back to me again when we have a better fit. So that's that win-win mentality, and that has done me very, very well in the 24 years that I've been actively selling one capacity or another. And that goes across the board, you guys, whether it's hospitality sales, I sold in sports marketing, I sold ticket sales, I did staffing. Now I'm in higher education, again, selling everything from executive education to MBA and graduate study programs to memberships into our Center for Closely Held Business. It doesn't matter. You keep that same mindset of how a solution should come together and what a quote unquote sale looks like. That's what it looks like. Everybody walks away a winner. Okay. So keep that in mind. As we go through chapter 7, they kind of touched on 3 different areas. One is you're in person, one is on the phone, one is through a third party. So I'm going to touch on each of these very briefly. Again, book does a phenomenal job, you guys. I cannot brag on this author enough. I like the way he writes. I like the examples he gives. I like the way he sets it up, okay? So in person, what are we looking for? The ability to communicate and to listen. And we have to watch our client for this. Unfortunately, this class is not one that we can delve really deep into this, but there are some ways that you can learn, and there are numerous classes out there that you can take to go through this. If you're seriously interested in this, please email me. I'm happy to recommend a number of different areas. I actually met the company today that has a fantastic philosophy on this, how they train their sales managers. And it's not about winning over. It's about how are you in the position listening to your client. And it's all kinds of different elements, right? First off, we want to talk less, listen more. If you're in a sales call, especially in person, you should talk 20% and the client should talk 80%. There's a number of reasons for that, right? You're there to provide a solution. You have to find out what the problem is, okay? You can't do that if you're running off at the mouth, right? The client is going to give us that information and we're going to process it and we're going to figure out how do we provide the best solution to the problem they presented us with, okay? And the only way you can do that is if you ask open-ended questions and you continue to get the client to talk, okay? So that's one important element. The other important element is how you communicate with somebody. Now, these are things that my hope would be as you guys are advancing in different sales classes and after you leave the university, my hope is that you're trained in this. This class is not built for that, that you're trained in the art of communication, right? So there are a lot of different things that we'll do, and it's so funny because I'm actually, I can see myself as I'm doing this video. So, and even doing that, I'm doing certain things that I would do in a sales call, right? So what are those things? Well, obviously I'm actively listening, right? My focus is on the person. In my case, I always look into what would be the person's right eye. I never want to go back and forth because then you look shifty because your eyes are moving, right? Pick one eye and stick with it. I'm listening to the cues that the individual is giving me, right? Are they auditory? In other words, they need to hear everything. Are they visual? Are they talking about how I need to be able to picture the room, okay? You need to be the one that paints that picture, right? They're trying to get a view in their head, okay? So they're visual. Or are they kinesthetic, okay? And it's a feeling, right? I need to feel the warmth, the sunshine. Is it dark? Is it loud? You know, so it's all about how a room feels. Those are cues for you then to communicate with that person in a way that they take in the communication. Now, also understand that's typically how they're going to communicate out their information. So you've got to be able to process both. The other thing is, and again, I wish we had time to go over this in greater detail, the ability to ask questions and not ask the 4 questions you have written down. Ask questions that are coming up from your discussion. This is an advanced skill, okay? And a lot of sales managers work very hard on this and the fact that, yes, there are things I need to know to go into your piece of business, right? I need to know how many people you're going to have in the meeting. I need to know what your budget is. But there are bigger issues I need to know as far as how I'm going to find the solution to the problem you're presenting us. You only pick that up when you listen, actively listen. You're not thinking about your next comment. You're not thinking about what fact I want to throw out to make myself look smarter. You're listening to what they're saying, and you're saying, okay, how do I address this concern? How do I address what they're asking? Has to be through active listening, okay? Now, whether we're gonna get to on the phone, but whether it's in person, on the phone, through a third party, the one thing that I always stress with our young sales managers is whatever the impression that the client has of our product or our company, when they walk away done talking with us, we want to make sure it's better than what it was beforehand. That could be us saying no, that we're not going to pursue this any further, that it's not, you know, it's not a perfect match for both of us. That's okay. If I get off the phone with somebody and it was a call in and they said, hey, Jay, I need 25 rooms on this date. I don't have that. I'm sorry. I want to make sure that when we get off the phone, we didn't ruin the relationship, right? I wasn't arrogant. I wasn't cocky. I wasn't like, why in the world would you ask that rate over that time frame? No, right? We want them to have a good feeling about our company. We want them to feel comfortable and feel trusted, right? That's on us, okay? So on the phone, it's very hard to do a lot of the things we just talked about in person, right? You can't look them in the eye, okay? Now, you can listen to the tone of voice. You can listen to what they're saying. Again, ask questions that are apropos to what the discussion is, okay? But it is a little bit harder on the phone. But for most of you, you will spend a lot of time on the phone, whether it is doing the actual selling or setting up an appointment to then do the selling, okay? The phone is, again, it's just like anything else, right? The same way you communicate in person, you know, you're going to communicate on the phone. I even got to the point where I stood up to make phone calls, okay? Because as you guys can tell in these lectures, my head moves a lot. My eyes get big. I talk with my hands. I'm very demonstrative, okay? Just the way I am. I do have to tone that down, though, when I'm in front of somebody who is maybe a little more introverted and the fact that I don't want to scare the bejesus out of them as I talk with my hands and get all excited. So again, reading your client, if you will. On the phone, you want your personality to come out. You want your enthusiasm to come out. And sometimes when you sit back in a chair, we get too relaxed, right? We slouch, my legs are up, what have you. But when I stand up, I have my energy. I can go. So again, think about those things, right? Think about the fact that, again, everything now is auditory. You can't show them anything. You've got to paint the picture, right? So again, being descriptive, listening to their questions, okay? Very, very important. The last one they talk about on here is third parties. And that is probably the most difficult because you're working through an intermediate, right? I'm not working with the actual decision making. I'm working with somebody in between. And how good that person is going to decide sometimes what kind of picture you're getting about what the client needs. Same thing, probably even more so, you have to bombard them with questions. So you definitely have an understanding of what it is the client needs and wants, what's important to them, what are the key issues, the key factors, and make sure that you've addressed every single one of those, okay? It's definitely more difficult when you go through a third party because you're going through their interpretation of what the client wants. But that is the way reality is. In a perfect world, we'd have both of them there so you could bounce questions off each of them. But sometimes you've got to get through the third party to get to the final two, and then you'll get the actual individual coming in. So the other part of selling that so many people tend to forget is the wrong word, but just don't do, is the follow-up, right? You had a good conversation. You were asked to put a proposal together. You put the proposal together. You can't sit back and not do anything. I send the proposal out on Monday, and with that proposal, I said, I'll be checking back up with you, unless they've told me differently. I'll be checking back up with you in a week to see where things are at. Get your feedback on the proposal. Is there anything that needs to be adjusted? Were we too aggressive on the rate? Did I leave out something that was important to you as a client? Making sure we continue that follow-up, those touch points, right? And last, but certainly not least, ask for the sale. There is nothing wrong with that. Every time you get done with a site tour, the last question you should ask is, we've done the site tour, you've seen the entire hotel. Is there any reason that you can tell me that would keep us from getting this piece of business? I just asked for the sale. Now I did it in a very, I think, way that maybe does not look salesy, right? What would keep you, and these are questions I want to know anyways, what would keep you from coming here? Jay, your rate's too high. The ballroom doesn't have any windows. So again, now we begin to go through and see, okay, what are things that are impeding a potential sale? Some of those things you can't control, right? Rate, this is what my revenue manager said I could do. They're not going to budge on this one. It is what it is. Fair enough. I can't add windows to the ballroom, right? Now, it might be other things. We really wanted chicken instead of ravioli. The prices are close. Can you get it down another dollar? Let me go back to chef and see what I can do. I don't mind paying the $149 if I could have 3 or 4 more upgrades. Fantastic. Let me see what I can do. So now we're beginning that negotiation process, right? And so when you ask for the sale, you begin to get that feedback that's going to help you either strengthen or adjust what your proposal is, and hopefully leads you to a position of winning the sale. We used to ask the clients all the time a number of questions at the end. Number one, if you had a magic wand after doing our site tour, what's the one thing you would change? And again, that tells us where we're short, right? Or tell me about the worst hotel experience you had, right? And they can go through and tell you things that didn't go right. That's telling me, don't fall short there, don't fall short there, don't fall short there. And on the flip side, we used to ask, tell me about the best hotel experience you had. Who knocked it out of the ballpark? Because there's where the bar's set. That's what you're trying to make sure that you're at least equal to, if not above that, okay? So those kind of follow-up questions, asking for the sale, nothing wrong with that at all, okay? So that was chapter 7. Give me a quick second. I gotta get a refresh. Okay, chapter 8, advertise into the meeting planner. For a lot of you, this will not go through you. It just depends on the kind of hotel you have. So typically, and we talked about this earlier in the book, right? Marketing, sales, right? They're cut from the same cloth. They do different things. So the advertising side of things, a lot of time are not taken care of by the sales staff. However, if you're at a hotel with limited staff, you're doing it all, right? So where do we advertise? Well, you guys are, I'm sure, smart enough about this because you're being bombarded, especially at your guys' age, and I shouldn't say age because we got a diverse group of students here. So, but all of us are being hit by somebody because we fall into their demographics, right? Hotels are no different, right? So print. You're going to see things in everything from periodicals, newspapers. Those are probably your big two anymore. We're kind of getting away from all that. You'll see things at conferences as well. A lot of times you'll have some kind of conference flyer, but I'll be honest, a lot of the conferences I go to now have apps. And so that advertisers are now advertising on the app, right? They're either sponsoring certain pages, they may be sponsoring the lunches, they may be sponsoring, what have you. So where can we advertise? Well, obviously different associations that we plug into, that's a perfect spot. We could advertise anywhere. There's all kinds of banner ads you can do now, and everything from Google to Instagram to LinkedIn. You can geofence. If you're not familiar with that one, that's a really neat one. Look that one up. We use it actually in education a lot because one of the things that I work on is selling our masters in risk and insurance, and we will actually geofence certain areas that we know are high in risk and insurance companies. And so anybody who's searching those kind of certain words, we will pop up or we will populate as a banner ad. So again, different ways of advertising. You have email campaigns, which you can do individually. I did thousands of those where I might pull from a list of my database and say, you know what? I know these people occasionally will be looking in the colder months. I want to let them know I got an $89 rate going out. If they book me right now and they lock it in 4 months in advance, $89. 2 months from now, it's probably going to be up to 109. Not a bad deal, but 89 is a whole heck of a lot better. So you'll do email campaigns on your own. But a lot of this kind of stuff is going to be taken at a kind of corporate level. And if you guys that work for a flag, you'll see, obviously, Marriott's out there and Intercontinental Hotel Groups, the Sheratons and all those guys, obviously are heavily involved in advertising where their niche is, right? Business travelers are going to see more of your select service properties. Family advertising is going to be on Nickelodeon. So it just depends upon what their niche is. So you'll see the TV as well. And again, I want to state the strategy that goes on with these advertising campaigns need to line up with your sales efforts. Now, some of that will come down from the brand, right? We're going to do certain sales blitz over this time and the advertisement's going out so it all falls in line. We're doing a special Valentine's Day thing, and so you as a sales team know that for these 3 weeks, we're pushing the Valentine's Day package at the Omni. So they coincide, right? They work together. We're not working against one another, we work together for that. So keep that in mind. If you have to create your own, like I said, there's some really good information in the book here, but again, it's one piece of the puzzle, right? So whatever strategy you come up from an advertising campaign, you want to match that then with your sales efforts, right? So there we go for chapter 8. Lastly, chapter 9. Chapter 9 is one that is incredibly important, especially as you get into finalizing the sale, right? The contract is everything. We need to make sure the contract is both fair to us and fair to the client. So what does that mean? Well, first off, you've got the negotiation stage of that, even before you get to the actual contract. Negotiation is going to be a give and take. We've got to the point where we think this is where we want to go to. We're down to the last 2 hotels. You're one of them. What does that look like? You have to understand, and you're going to know this by what your director of sales talk about, what your revenue manager talks about, what your GM talks about, where we want to give. There are certain things in the hotel that we say, look, that's it. You don't go beyond this, right? We don't give away suites at a regular room rate. Can't be done. That's a company policy. However, we will allow for A, B, C, D, right? It could be, we're going to allow upgrades. When I was a sales manager, we had a freedom to do a lot of things to get in the negotiation part where they said, God, 149 seems like an awful lot, and maybe they had 35 rooms. I had 35 upgrades. I said, you know what? You're coming in during a dead period. How about I do this? We'll keep the 149 rate. I'm going to bump everybody up into an upgrade. Those rooms typically go for 189. What do you think about it now? Oh, a $40 deal? Yes. And the suites come with access to our lounge, and the suites have these amenities that the other rooms don't have. You have refrigerators, you get free beverages, Now we're negotiating, right? Now we're trying to find out, okay, where is, the best fit? It might be that, someone says, okay, look, we don't want to pay room rental. This other hotel is saying they'll comp it for us. Okay, I got no problem with that. But I'm going to up your food and beverage about $3,000 more. Are you okay with that? Yeah, we were going to add a dessert anyways. It fits in our budget. It's not additional cost. We're good. Everybody wins. So there's the negotiation process, and that will go back and forth Usually right to the point you sign a contract. So understand you're going to have to know where you're at in the company, or where your policies are at in the company, what you can give, what you can't, right? Some hotels will comp internet. We say we charge for it, but it's one bargain share in my back pocket. Yep, we're going to comp that for you guys. Now it looks like I gave something away. In hindsight, it doesn't really cost us that much, so it's not a big deal. But you also have to know what's important to the client. The client might say, look, rate doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the fact that you meet me at the door, and when my people get off the bus, there's a table, their rooms are pre-keyed, and we have an amenity to give everybody. Fantastic. Go take the 209 rate. I will take the 209 rate. Great. I'll have a table there. My GM will be there. My DOS will be there, and I'll be there. And we'll make sure everybody gets a handshake, a letter of welcome, and we're going to have a really cool amenity for you guys when you get off the bus. That's, again, where can you negotiate? So the other part of chapter 9, and I really want you guys to read these close, right? You typically won't put your contract together, okay? Legal is going to do that for whatever entity you work for. That is, I'm almost 99.9%, you would never write your own contract in that regard. You may put clauses in with the help of legal. Maybe a third party says, look, I got to have this clause in there, and then you'll have legal read it and say, yep, that's fine. We can adhere or abide by that. They put it in there. But the things you want to pay closest to are those kind of clauses, right? When you work with third parties, they're going to want to put certain clauses in there, whether that's attrition, whether that is cancellation, whether that is when they get paid. Some of the third parties will say, we're going to want 50% at signing, and we get 50% when the group has left. So there's a lot of different elements of that you have to pay attention to. Also, and we kind of talked about this in earlier chapters, understand who you're working with. There are some people who plan meetings for a living. The contracts are very familiar to them. Attrition clauses are not shockers. Cancellation clauses are not shockers. If you don't have that person, if you're working with somebody who has never signed a hotel contract, do yourself the favor of walking them through every single clause. It's an education process for them. It's going to keep them from being blindsided if something were to go wrong. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've gone through an attrition clause with somebody that they understood, look, you asked for 100 rooms. When you sign this contract, you're guaranteeing 80. 80%, you're saying you'll pick up 80% of your block. If you don't, you're paying for the rooms you're short, okay? They have to understand that, especially in that Smurf world where it might be a family reunion, right? And I'm organizing it and I'm signing the contract, but I'm not truly responsible for everybody's rooms, right? Uncle Joe, Aunt Ida, Cousin Jenny, they're getting their own rooms, but my name's on the contract, and we said hold this many, and half the family doesn't make it from Piqua, Ohio. All of a sudden, I'm on the hook for 25 rooms. You have to understand that, right? And they have to understand. So you as a sales manager can save yourself a lot of headaches walking through that contract when you get the sense that the person who's signing it on that end doesn't do this on a regular basis, okay? So guys, quick, dirty, got it all in. Again, I'm gonna be grading the discussions. Great job on the test, phenomenal, very, very proud of all of you guys. Again, keep sending me the emails or texts if you have questions. Otherwise, have a fantastic week. See you guys next week.